Everybody, welcome to Hump Hangouts. This is episode 518. We were just talking about how close that is to episode 520, which will be the 10-year anniversary of Hump Day Hangouts, which we've got some special stuff planned. We've got two special guests that are going to be joining us, and we are definitely going to be having some fun and hint, maybe some giveaways for people who are there live. Can't say for sure that this awesome sweatshirt will be available, but maybe we'll have that along with some other stuff. So I think Bradley's rocking a good shirt too. You got your shirt on?
I
There we
do
go.
every day, every Monday through Friday. I've got these
Nice.
shirts on. In fact, I need to get some new ones because they're becoming worn.
Nice. Well, good stuff, you guys. We've got that coming up. Also, I wanted to say that I believe emails just went out for the DHA 3-day workshop. And I know, Bradley, I ask you every week, but I realize we have people who don't join. We get some questions about it during Hump Day Hangouts. Do you mind just giving people a really quick rundown of the DHA 3-day live workshop training? And I'm going to pop the link into chat so people have that.
Sure, I don't mind giving an explanation or a rundown. I don't know how quick it'll be though, but yeah, so the DHA 3-day workshop, guys, is the kind of intro to the what we call DHA phase one, or directory hybrid agency phase one. Phase one is building the marketing and sales machine, the prospecting machine, okay, which is the automated machine that will help you to generate leads consistently for your agency using cold email, directory, so a niche specific or industry specific directory, and cold email to generate consistent leads for your agency. So the entire DHA phase one program is how to build all of it, like from start to finish, so that by the end of it, you have your agency set up, you have your directory site set up, you've got lead generation assets that have been built that by the end of the first phase are already, many of them should already be ranking, which then you use those as sales tools to help you sell your services to companies in that particular industry. The DHA 3-day workshop is like the light version of that, or the intro to phase one, which shows you how to select an industry, set up or create a brand around that particular industry that would become your directory agency brand at a later time if you decide to join the full program or join the mastermind and work yourself through the program, which you can do. And then it's setting up the email system and including the warming up the emails, setting up the domains properly, warming them up, including them in the emailing app, and then setting up the sequence, then start your cold emailing and all of that, so that now you can start to generate leads coming into your agency. And then if you decide that you want to build a directory too, like I said, come join the mastermind. We've got all the SOPs for how to build all that, or wait until the next phase one opens up, the full program. If you join the 3-day workshop, then you get a discount off of if you join the full program later. You also may get a discount for the mastermind if you join the mastermind right after it too. So in any case, what I'm saying is it's kind of a way to wet your whistle, so to speak, right? To give you a chance to see what it's about, see what it's like, see what the SOPs are like, because that's how I deliver the training, is via SOP, or standard operating procedure format. And that way it's very inexpensive. It's $199 to join, and you can see if it's for you. Get the training, learn how to set up cold email properly so you can generate leads for your own agency, whether you decide to join the rest of the program or not. But if you do decide you want to join, then you can join the mastermind and start working through it on your own using the SOPs, or you can wait until the next phase opens up, which I think we're going to do right after the first of the year will be the next round of phase one. So just wanted to clarify that. That wasn't very brief now, was it, Adam?
That was brief enough, and I mean, 3 minutes or so. That's pretty good. So I think we're good. Let me see. I was just bringing up my notes after pasting the link, and I think those are the two things I really wanted to make sure we got across to people. Really excited about both those, both the 520 special guest giveaways, and then the live training coming up. And we will be having some goodies coming Black Friday. Stay tuned for that. We generally have some fun on Black Friday. We're not going to be selling anything. We do have nothing that you should buy, but we will definitely have some good stuff coming out for a limited time. So make sure you stay tuned, and you're either subscribed on YouTube or you are subscribed to the email list, or both. If you're not, you definitely want to do that. Head over to semanticmastery.com and hop on the email list, or head over to, well, hopefully you're already on YouTube, I guess. And you can subscribe there and make sure notifications are enabled so you get that stuff, because that will only be available for a limited period of time. So with that out of the way, I'm going to back up a minute and say hello because we never got to say hello to everybody. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good. Super excited. Lots of stuff in the works. And yeah, it's getting colder. Halloween is coming soon as well. So stay tuned.
Nice. Bradley, how about you? Are things cooling down for you too?
Yeah, thank God the bugs are gone. Released we're out right now while it's cold. It's been cold the last few days. It's been nice. It's nice to get a break. But yeah, super busy, man. I got stuck doing some high level stuff in developing the last service that I had been dragging my feet on developing because I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass to build in high level. And I have such a high love-hate relationship with high level. Every time I got to build something in high level, I know it's going to take a long time because it's just the nature of how it works and having to test and all that stuff. And so I was working on the review system. I started on that about almost 10 days ago. Well, about 10 days ago, and I thought it would take me 3 days. It took me 9. And so for 9 days, I've been working in high level trying to get this goddamn snapshot configured properly. And after 3, throwing it all away, like doing a ton of work for 2 days and then throwing it all away, shit canning it, and then going back to the drawing board and starting over again after 3 rounds of that, I finally got it. And I got it set up and built. So now we just started today, putting it through the test. Over the next 7 to 10 days, we're going to put it through some, pretty heavy testing to see if we can break it and find things that aren't just quite right. And then we'll be ready to run with selling that third service to my own tree contractors, to my own through my own agency. And that's the last component to develop phase 2 of the DHA program. So we've got probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 weeks before we start the next phase 1 group, which is when we plan on launching phase 2, which is sales and fulfillment. And that's selling those front end services that we developed as part of the DHA program, which are all high level based services. Okay. So the last component was the reviews system. And like I said, I was dragging my feet on it intentionally because I knew it was going to be a bitch to build, and it was. But that's the last thing that we're working on now to start selling to my tree contractors, and so that we can kind of dial in the sales process for how to sell that service. And then we'll have the whole phase 2 program developed and ready for any graduates of phase 1 that want to go right into the sales and fulfillment training. That's only a 6-week program, but it's specifically for how to sell and how to sell specifically the services that we can provide through this DHA program so that people can get to money faster. That's the whole point. So I only brought that up because I've spent days and days and days in high level, and I'm almost cross-eyed because of it, and I'm behind in everything else. And so now I'm trying to play catch up, and it's been a bit overwhelming and a bit stressful. So
Fair enough. All right. Well, with that out of the way, I don't think we have anything else. It's I guess time to jump into questions.
sure enough, we got a few too. So let me grab the screen and we'll get right into it. There's a couple from last week that I don't know that were answered. I can't remember. So I am going to briefly just mention this just because I want to make sure that I I can't remember if I answered these or not. I remember seeing them, but I don't remember if I answered them. So forgive me if I answered it last week. But Fred had asked, do you have a course for how to do audits? Yes, I do. We have an SOP for how to do audits. Plus I do complimentary audits for mastermind members that are okay with me sharing the audit report and review and all of that in as a training opportunity for the rest of the group. So I do have an SOP that teaches how to do audits. It needs to be updated though, because I have added a lot of detail to my audits over the since I developed that SOP. I add a lot more detail to the audits now, significantly more detail. So they do need to be updated, but I do have an SOP for the main components of the audit so that it teaches how to do it and how to format the audit report and all that stuff. And then, like I said, I also do example audits for mastermind members that have requested that I do and I offer to do complimentary audits for mastermind members as long as they're okay with me sharing the results and the report with the rest of the group, because it's a training opportunity. And the reason that I do that is because I've been teaching about what I call topic and category optimization for months, if not for an entire year. And yet I know that basically nobody in the mastermind was applying anything of what I was teaching, or it might have been a few, but if they were quiet about it, because every time I would have a mastermind member ask me to look or help them with something, and I would look at how they were optimizing things, they weren't doing any of the stuff that I was recommending. And so finally I started asking, why is it that people started telling me because they didn't know how to apply what I was teaching to the specific industries that they were working in. And so that's when I said, okay, well, there's obviously a gap that needs to be filled in how I'm teaching this. So the only way that I could know how to do that was to then show examples by doing audits in various industries. And the only way I could do that and share it with people is to offer to do complimentary audits for mastermind members, as long as they're okay with me sharing it. If you're not okay with me sharing it in the group, then you have to pay for it. I'm not going to do it for free for no reason. You know what I mean? But if you're okay with me sharing it in the group, then I will do an audit and then use that as a training opportunity for the rest of the group so that they can see how to apply those principles to various industries and also various circumstances within industries. So for example, is it a single location business? Is it a service area business or a storefront business? Is it a single location business that is a service, or is it a service area business with multiple Google Business locations? Or is it a service area business with one GBP? Is it a multi-service category business? So in other words, like for example, an HVAC contractor often does HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. Those are three very distinct service categories. So then more complexity can be thrown into this. Is it a multi-service category service area business that has multiple locations? Because then how do you structure the sites, right? And so I can understand why it was difficult to apply those types of site structure and optimization methods that I've been teaching about for almost 2 years now. I can understand why that would be difficult to apply because there are various circumstances in which it could, you would have to try to apply that. And then there's also various industry types that have various circumstances within each industry. And so that's why I wanted to start offering public audits, when I say public, but they're private because they're in the closed group, but share them with the closed group so that I could start to show how to apply that to various real world projects instead of just demo projects that I would create, which I didn't like to do, just create. And by the way, I've done that in the mastermind too, which is where I would create demo sites with different structures to specifically teach on how it would be applied in that circumstance. But the problem with that is then I'm literally building demo sites that I'm not intending on ranking and I'm wasting a lot of time to do that. Whereas I would rather just audit a real live campaign so that at least the member of the mastermind's client will get benefit from that audit. And at the same time, it's not just something that I'm just making, doing for the sake of teaching. It's something that has an actual benefit to a real world business and to one of our mastermind members who would be the SEO hired by that business. You know what I mean? So all of that is to say, yes, I do have training for it. But it's and there's training, not only formal training for how to do audits, but also informal training in that there are plenty of examples of audits in the group. And I've got another one to do tomorrow, as a matter of fact, for a real estate investment company or quick turn real estate company, real estate marketing company. Let's put it that way. Fred also asked, what about a course about doing brand entity setup right? Yes, sir. Of course, we have that in there. We cover proper setup of a brand from multiple angles too, by the way. For the GBP, through on page, through external assets, through CTR. There's a number of ways that we help to set up and build strength and authority to a local brand. Or to a brand, a local entity, typically, because remember, we teach local SEO, guys. Some of these principles can be applied to things outside of local SEO, but we focus on local SEO. So we teach a number of ways to build strength and authority to the local entity or the local brand. And the reason I do that is because that is the most important thing, guys. I can't stress that enough. I've been trying to hammer this home for you, to everybody, for months and months and months. In local search right now, branding is everything. If you can build strength and authority to a local brand, it will make everything else easier. Everything else easier. You will need less links, less content. Like, you can have deficiencies in other areas and still rank really, really well if you build enough strength and authority to the local brand. And that can be done a number of ways, right? It can be done with offline marketing methods. No kidding. That has nothing to do with SEO. You can build brand authority through direct mail, through print advertising, radio advertising, local cable TV advertising. All of those things build significant brand authority that will make it easier to rank. even if you have significant deficiencies in other areas. And so branding is so incredibly important in local search right now. And I just did an audit or a competitive link analysis for an agency in Massachusetts today that says that they are a branding and a digital marketing company, and that they also do SEO and web design. And I'm not going to reveal the company. I want to so bad because it's such a fucking good example of why our industry is so shitty. And I believe, and I'm saying this with all sincerity too, because this company is a digital marketing agency in Massachusetts that claims that they do branding, SEO, web design, all these things. And they asked me for competitive link analysis for their agency site because they're not performing well in search. And I went to go do the competitive link analysis today, and the homepage of their website, the SEO title says website. They call themselves a branding agency, and the homepage of their website's SEO title says website. It doesn't say their brand name. It doesn't say what they do. It doesn't say where they do it. It says website. Their services page, which is where they list all the services that they do, instead of having a page for SEO, a page for web design, etc., they have a services page that says services, or it says, excuse me, our services. No brand, no where they do it, none of that. It just says our services. It's not optimized for a keyword. It's not optimized for a service. It just says our service. This is a company that on their website is telling their potential clients that they do branding and SEO and digital marketing. And their own website isn't ranking in the top 50 for any of the search queries that they submitted. They have a shit backlink profile and no on-page optimization with no branding on their site, period. They have a logo on their site, but it's nowhere in the main optimization elements of the site, which is titles, headings, and subheadings. So it just goes to show, like, there is so many digital marketers and SEOs out there that are selling services that have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And that's why I think our industry is so fucked up, because there is no barrier to entry. There is no qualification requirements to get into our industry. You can just declare to the world that you're a marketing professional, and boom, you're a marketing professional. You can go out and sell your services to unsuspecting victims and take advantage of people and their livelihoods. Because imagine a business that goes to a company like this and invests $1,000, $2,000 a month in digital marketing services from a company that can't even brand their own website when they say they're a branding company. Like, you're taking money away from businesses that can affect their lives, their families' lives, their employees' lives, etc. Like, it's just absolutely astounding to me what I see now that I'm doing a ton of audits and consulting for SEO agencies, and I see how bad some of the SEO is and marketing is out there, that these agencies and consultants are claiming that they're professionals, and they're out there taking people's money when they shouldn't be. They should be ashamed of themselves. And so, anyways, all of that was to answer the question, do we show how to set up a brand right? You're goddamn right we do, because that is one of the most important things, is building a strong brand. You should do it for your own agency, but you, especially if you're taking money from other businesses and telling them you're going to get them results, then you should be focusing on building brand authority for your clients right now, more than anything. There's all the other SEO stuff. Yeah, you're going to do that anyway. But why not focus on building brand authority first and foremost, so that that company stands out? Because again, a lot of the other companies out there are still using shitty SEO companies that have not caught up with the times, that are still optimizing for keywords instead of brand, or keywords instead of topics and categories, etc. Again, just go look, guys. Just go start looking at the top ranked sites for a lot of the more competitive industries in local SEO. And you'll see that a lot of the homepages are not optimized for brand at all. And if they are, it's a secondary thing. They're optimized for keywords first and everything else. Those are opportunities. If you can go into areas or markets like that and land a client that you build brand authority to, they will perform better. Almost guaranteed, because brand authority is one of the most important things in local search, according to my testing and doing a ton of analyses now for dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of industries for local search queries for the last almost 3 years. Remember, I started doing white label link building services in January of 2022. So we're almost at 3 years that I've been doing this. So I've just got a ton of analysis for local search queries because of the level of analysis that we do for every single client. And we refresh that data every month. And that's given me just so much data that I've been able to find patterns and commonalities and things. And one thing and that's why I know for 100% certainty that branding is one of the most important things in local search right now, because the top ranked competitors for most industries that I analyze have strong brands, in some cases with no backlinks or very few backlinks. Why? Because they have a strong brand, which can, like I mentioned before, can be accomplished through even offline advertising and offline marketing methods, can influence how a site or brand performs in search when it has nothing to do with SEO. It has to do with brand authority. That makes sense. Some of the other people that have been pushing brand too, like Mike Merlino, and specifically Mike Merlino, he's been pushing branding on the CTR side of things for years. And I instantly liked Mike Merlino because of the fact that he was pushing brand stuff several years ago, when I started seeing how important that was too. And so it's good to see a few people that have kind of also agreed or come to the same conclusion, I mean, if that makes sense. And it wasn't because we talked about it. He does CTR aggressively. I do a lot of other SEO stuff. And we both came to the conclusion that branding is critical to local SEO, more so than anything. Right? Fred says, how can we get those again? Just come join the mastermind, man. We've got all that stuff in the mastermind. It's all included. You don't pay separately. You just join the mastermind. You get SOPs. Sorry I went so deep into that question, guys. But again, it just pisses me off because whenever I'm doing an audit for especially an agency, and I see that they're just, and that's happened a lot lately. In the last month, I've done audits for, I think, 4 or maybe 5 agencies. And if it was 4, 3 out of 4 of them were terrible. If it was 5, then 4 out of 5 of them were terrible. It was only one of them that was decent. And the rest of them were absolutely awful. And yet they're on their own websites. They're saying that they're marketing professionals and SEO experts and all that other stuff. And I don't know how people sleep at night. Honest to God, don't. But anyway, moving on. So Neil says, Roy, I see your question about land flipping. We'll save that for the end as usual. It wouldn't be fair to everybody else. So what to do if the keywords of a website are constantly in a decline from the last 30 days? And after making changes or even publishing new content, it doesn't rank or pick up any keywords. Well, then it may be a domain penalty. It may be a link penalty. It could be both. So, if the domain is penalized, then changing the keywords isn't going to improve it. Like, because why is the domain penalized? Is it over optimization? Is it spam? Is it technical errors? Is it crawl resistance? Is it a poor backlink profile, an over optimized backlink profile, toxic links pointing to it, whatever? What is the reason? There are so many variables that can cause a site to tank. You need to first identify you have to try to find the source and correct it at the source. Because again, guys, I was just mentioning this on another call earlier today or whatever, but remember, there's like SEO is a collection of things, right? It's like, in other words, in order to achieve top ranking performance, you usually have to do fairly well across a lot of sections. Like, in other words, there's a lot of components that go into a proper SEO campaign. And any one of those can break down or cause problems if done improperly or too aggressively or whatever. And when you have a lack or a deficiency in one area, it's very difficult. It's often that you can't make up for the lack or the deficiency in one area by overdoing it in another. Do you see what I'm saying? It's hard to overcome poor optimization or problems because of deficiencies in certain areas by overdoing it in others. It's better to have a holistic approach to try to cover all bases. Now, I'm not saying you can't get results with deficiencies in certain areas and also, trying to compensate in other areas. You certainly can. I'm just saying it's more difficult, and it's better if you take a more holistic approach. And so when analyzing a site that is dropping in rankings, you have to try to look at it with a broad lens and a broad view, and try to figure out what are the main components that could be causing this problem, and then start investigating. Honestly, it depends on the project too, though, because I found that I've done this even in like one of my own tree service lead gen brands. That was the first big multi-location lead gen brand that I had ever created. And so I started it in 2000 and I think 14. So it would have been 10 years old, but it was about 2 years ago when the domain caught a penalty, and it was a multi-location domain. And we had, at one time, we had 22 Google business locations for that one brand. Over the years, I lost a few from suspensions, and then I rebranded some of them to a different brand. So by the time that the domain finally caught a penalty, I think I had 13 locations, and it caught a penalty. The domain did, and so the maps, the GBPs ranked fairly well, still, most of them anyways. But the website itself tanked in organic, and man, I spent 5 or 6 months trying to recover that site. Could never get it to recover. Like, I don't think it was a link thing. I checked on it. Of course, that was before I was real heavy in the link building. But so anyway, long story short, after 5 or 6 months and trying all different kinds of things to recover the domain, I just bought the same domain but with a different extension. I bought a .org. It was originally on a .net, and I bought a .org, and I just started moving sites from all inner pages. So I used to have location landing pages as inner pages of the main domain for all those locations. So I had multiple locations with a separate location landing page for each location, but it was all part of the root domain. So they were all inner pages. So when I bought the .org domain, I just started building standalone sites, WordPress, on subdomains. So instead of an inner location page on the root domain, I was creating standalone, pretty much one-page tree service sites on subdomains of the .org domain. So each one was its own site. That way, if I was to catch a penalty again on any one of the sites, it would be isolated to that one subdomain. Whereas the root domain caught a penalty and it affected all 13 locations at the time. You see what I'm saying? So, and just by switching from the root domain to the new domain, which was on a .org and subdomain sites, the site started to come back up in organic search. So what I'm saying is, why I brought all that up was because if you have a domain that is declining and you can't figure, I mean, certainly, especially depending on your backlinks and all that other kind of stuff, you may want to try to recover that domain. I get that. So I'm not saying don't just abandon it right away and transfer the site to a different domain. But if you've exhausted all of what you think you can try and nothing solves it, then you may want to consider transferring the domain or the site, excuse me, to a different domain, right? Because sometimes that's the only way you can recover a site, right? I would encourage you, again, check on it. What are the things that you've tested already? I don't know. You can't, this is a very short question. It doesn't have enough context for me to be able to provide enough insight, but there's a number of things you can check, right? Go look at Search Console. Does it have a manual action penalty? Search Console usually won't tell that unless it's like a very significant, penalty of some sort, like pure spam, etc. So if it doesn't tell you in Search Console, then it may be an algorithmic penalty. One thing you can do to check is it an algorithmic penalty is just do a search for the domain name. Does the home page pop in the #1 position? If the home page does not rank in the #1 position for a domain search, that means literally just search Google for the domain, whatever it is, .com, .net, whatever it is. And if the home page doesn't appear in the #1 position for that, then it's likely that there is a penalty applied to the domain, right? So that's one way to just check very quickly. But there are so many different things that can be looked at. It would be hard to kind of go through all of them right now. All right, so I'm going to move on. YouTube comment, I'll come back to that if we still have time. Those are usually difficult to answer. So next one is Greg. I have received my first guest post from QGP. That must be Greg Pippin. What's up, Greg? He says, would it make sense to order a niche edit from Semantic Mastery? Excuse me, from Semantic, you mean Semantic Links, as a backlink for the guest post? Yeah, you can. Remember, those are target URLs. They can be, right? You can build tier 2 links to your guest post that you purchased so that you can push more relevance through that link. Remember, when I talk about buying those types of links, which I do for my own clients, by the way, just to be clear, guys, I don't do outreach links at Semantic Links, but I do have a provider that I use that I buy links from for my own client projects. Why? Because of the traffic metrics. That's why. I don't buy links because of DA. I don't buy links because of DR. I buy links based on relevance, which is why I have semantic links, because semantic links are links based on pure relevance, either topical or geographic relevance. I don't focus on metrics. I focus on relevance. But traffic, which a lot of my sites lack because they don't have a lot of traffic, traffic is a validation signal. So I buy guest posts and niche edits from outreach link providers, but I use mainly QGP for that. And it starts at $199 per link. So it's stupid expensive, which is why I only do 1 or 2 per quarter per local client. I don't do it for my white label agency clients, but I do it for my own local clients. Does that make sense? My own local SEO clients, tree contractors. Depending on what their budget is, I will buy 1 or 2 outreach links per quarter for my tree service contractor clients, because what I'm buying is I still try to buy a link with at least page level relevance, maybe not domain level relevance, but page level relevance, and then traffic. I'm looking for higher traffic statistics, maybe not at the page level, but at the domain level. That makes sense. And that's what I'm buying. So I try to buy a relevant link at the page level with good domain traffic statistics. And I found that sprinkling a couple of those links in with those semantic links helps to kind of ignite, especially in more competitive areas. Like I don't buy QGP links for all of my clients, but the more competitive ones I do. And I found that it helps. So to get back to Greg's question, yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're pushing semantic links through a guest post, you can push more relevance into that post. So that link becomes more valuable now. Does that make sense? So that's absolutely a good idea. All right. Any suggestions for Google to notice that link? Yeah, just submit the page URL to an indexer. That's all you got to do. And there are a number of those, right? Google, if the site has traffic, then that page will get crawled eventually anyways, but you can force it by submitting it to an indexer. Okay, just pick one. Huzaifa, what's up, buddy? I sent you your report last week. So he says, if GBP chooses not to show a business location to customers, is it at a disadvantage compared to those who do show it? And is that a ranking factor of the GBP? Yeah, you mean a displayed street address or not? If that's what you mean, then yes, it's absolutely a positive ranking factor. If you display, even for a service area business, I don't care if Google tells you you're not supposed to display the business street address of a Google business profile if it is a service area business where the customers do not come to the business location. It tells you in Google's, terms of service or terms of use or acceptable use policy or whatever for Google business profiles, that if it is a service area business where the customers do not come to the business location, then it should be an unpublished street address. And Google tells you that it is against their acceptable use policy if you publish the street address when customers don't come to the business location. But we all know, or most of us know, that have been doing local SEO for any amount of time, that it is absolutely a ranking benefit if you publish the street address. In fact, so much so that I tell my tree contractors, whenever they don't have a published street address, I tell them, we should publish your street address. I also always warn them that by doing so, it may trigger re-verification or suspension. But and so I make sure that that's very clear before we pull the trigger on that, right? I tell them, like, look, we will absolutely be able to get better performance out of your Google business profile if we display your address. However, by displaying your address, it could trigger re-verification or possibly suspension. But if you've got a valid business location, then the chances that we will be able to re-verify or reinstate it are very, very high. So it's up to you, business owner, whether you want to take that risk or not. I suggest that we do, but I want you to you have to be comfortable in that decision, because if it does suspend or trigger re-verification and we were unable to do it, you have to be aware that that is a risk that we are taking. It's a small risk, because if you have it, and I won't offer this or even suggest it if I know that the business won't be able to re-verify. But if I have a strong feeling that they'll be able to re-verify it or reinstate it if it gets suspended or triggers re-verification, then I will recommend to the contractor to display the address, because I know for a fact it will improve performance, like overnight. I've did it with a number of my own lead gen assets where I had set them as service area businesses because they were lead gen assets with like PO boxes, no shit, as the address. And then I would just go, and I did this a couple of years ago where I went in and I did it on 3, and I did the first 2 was fine. The third one triggered suspension or re-verification, which by the way, that GBP is still live. It's still published. I just can't edit it anymore because it's in re-verification status and I'll never be able to re-verify it. But all I did was show the address, and so I did this on a Friday, and on Monday I reran the local search grid report, and they had just lit up like a Christmas tree. Everything turned green across a big, large service area just from showing the street address. So I know for a fact that that's going to improve. But remember, you're in danger of doing it every time that you do it, especially if you don't have a way to re-verify the GBP. Then don't bother, don't try it, because you'll lose it. Most likely, you're going to lose it. Okay. Next question. Is it okay to use the same brand name or social profile username for every entity asset, or using the same username across multiple platforms bad for SEO? No, no, no. If it's the brand, you want brand consistency, right? You don't want to pollute or ambiguate the brand. So you want brand consistency. Okay. That's another thing that I see a lot with audits. I see a lot of people referencing their own their client's company brand name in multiple formats in the SEO titles, not in one SEO title, multiple formats, but in various pages on the site. The brand name is rearranged and changed. Sometimes it's, HVAC Service Inc. Sometimes it's HVA Service. Sometimes HVA Services. Sometimes it's HVAC Service Contractor. Like, you understand, I'm just giving some generic names here. That's not actual business brand names, although I've seen SEOs that tell their clients to name themselves after generic search queries too. I see that a lot still. But no, you want brand consistency, guys, because otherwise, what are you doing? You're confusing Google. Who is this brand? Is it this, or is it this, or is it this? Have brand consistency, guys. It's okay if it has Inc. or LLC and you decide to sometimes keep it, sometimes omit it. That's not a big deal. Google's a lot more forgiving in that. But if you change the name, sometimes abbreviate it, sometimes it's the full name, sometimes it's a variant of some of the terms in the name, then what the hell are you doing? You're confusing Google, right? And I'm not talking you specifically, Isaiah. I'm talking about, I see this a lot in audits from SEOs or people that claim they're SEOs and have clients, and they bring their projects to me. So I don't understand why this isn't performing. Yeah, me neither. So anyway, so yeah, if you're going to use a brand name, be consistent as much as possible. Sometimes you can't get the consistent name in the like subdomain, but you can still title the name of the blog or the social media profile with the proper name. You just might not be able to get it in the subdomain or the page URL slug or whatever. That might be taken already, but you can still name the page or the profile with the proper name, right? So branding is be consistent with your branding, guys. Josiah says, can you recommend a few platforms on which I can get untraditional unstructured citations beside Web 2.0s, where address submissions or exact address submissions aren't required? Press releases, video citations, image citations, document citations, guest posts, blog posts on blogs, where you can reference the brand, city, state without referencing the street address. Like, that's what I recommend, guys. You can still create citations. Remember, a citation is a published mention of the data points for a business, which are typically name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. That is what a citation is, a published mention. People think that citations are business directory listings, and that is true. A business directory listing is a citation, but that's only one type. A citation is a published mention of those, some combination of those data points: name, address, phone number, and website. That's it. So a citation can be anywhere that you can publish content that can be indexed on the web. That's a citation. So again, anything that you have access to control where you can publish content, you can use as a citation. And so a citation can be the business name, city, state, zip, and phone, without a web link, without a link to the website. Or it can be the business name, phone, and website address without the city, state, zip, or the street address, right? It could be any combination of those 4 data points. You get it? So what I'm saying is, you can omit the street address, which is what I typically recommend, that you do name, city, state, zip, phone number, and web address, so that you just omit the street address. But if you don't want to have the street, you can even omit the city, state, zip and just do name, phone number, website, or name, street address, city, state, zip, phone, or city, state, zip, web address without the phone, or whatever. Any combination thereof is what I'm saying. Okay. So yeah, anything that you can publish, man, it doesn't matter. As long as it can be indexed, it can have an effect. It can help. Roy says, can I use the directory system also for my decal business to get great leads? I don't know, Roy. I don't know what you mean by decal business. Yeah, I have no idea what you mean by that. The directory process that I use is for targeting local businesses in a particular industry. So I don't know what that would. You be targeting sticker companies? I'm not sure what you would be doing with that. So again, forgive me for not understanding the question. I just don't know enough about that industry to know if it would even be relevant. All right. Okay, guys, we still got 20 minutes. I feel like this update hangout is dragging on. So I'm going to jump back and answer any comments, and then I'll take a look at, well, sorry, let me look at these YouTube comments first, and then I'll answer the land flipping question. We can wrap it up early if we need to. YouTube comment, I'm having a syndication network made for my YouTube channel. It's many rings with one brand. Recommend anything else that I should add? No, you don't need to. For YouTube, you can do that. You can stack as many rings on a YouTube channel as you want. At least now it's been years since I've done any of that. But the way I always looked at it is Google's not going to punish duplicate syndication or content for YouTube videos, because all you're doing is pushing Google code out across the web. Think about that. When you're syndicating a YouTube video across syndication networks, it's not like syndicating blog content, where it's the same content, yes, republished on other platforms with a citation URL or an attribution link that cites the source of the original post. That is what syndication is, guys. That's how you get away from it causing what they call duplicate content problems, because it's like a press release. The press release distribution pickups always cite the original source. There's the original and then copies, right? And the attribution link cites the original source, so it gives credit to the original publication. That doesn't mean that a copy can't outrank the original. It can. But I'm just saying there's the original and then there's copies. And so with blog posts, when syndicating blog posts to syndication networks, if you are overly aggressive with it, you can actually catch a penalty from that. Google, can slap you for it because it's publishing the same content over and over and over again. It's not the same, they're not being treated the same as press releases. So you can overdo it with syndicating blog content from a money site, is what I'm saying. But YouTube, at least years ago, when I did a lot of that kind of stuff, which I don't now, but if I did a lot of that in the past, I did a lot of aggressive testing on seeing if we could get a YouTube video to be penalized, or even the Web 2.0 blogs to be penalized by syndicating YouTube videos. And what I found was it's like, why would Google punish any publication that is acting as a publisher for Google? And that's all they're doing. Remember, when you're syndicating YouTube videos, all you're doing is putting that video out on another platform that can collect a view, which means collect ad revenue for YouTube. Think about it. So you can add as many syndication networks to your YouTube channel as you want. And I've never, but again, I haven't done any specific YouTube SEO stuff in a few years. So that may have changed, but I highly, highly doubt it. Okay. Any chance you can provide Google with to earn more revenue? They're going to take it. Last one, why do you need to keep the internal, internal linking of location pages minimal? Let's see, the comment is, hi Bradley, I hope you're doing well. I have a question about website crawlability and SEO. I'm using the Astra theme for my WordPress website. And I'm curious about how the Googlebot interacts with the menus and the theme. Specifically, if I submit just one page to the Google crawler, will it follow all the links on my site's header menu to discover the other pages? Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, yes. Because all you got to do is get the Googlebot to the site. And if it's going to crawl the page, it's going to crawl the entire page with all the code, which means the links within the headers, they're part of the code of that page, right? So theoretically, yes, they're going to discover the rest of the pages. Will they index them? I don't know. There's other variables that determine that, but theoretically, yes. That's typically what I do for my LLG sites now, guys, or what I call the local lead gen sites, is I just submit the homepage and what I would consider the primary location or service page, or excuse me, service or location page. What I'm saying is the primary service area page. That's what I meant to say. Forgive me. So this is an example. When I submitted this one, Albemarle Felling Pro, to Search Console, I did inspect URL, test URL, request indexing for 2 URLs, right? And I submitted the sitemap. So first I submitted the domain via URL prefix, because I want subdomains to have their own separate Search Console instance, right? So I didn't do a domain connection. I did a URL prefix connection. And then I will submit the sitemap, which the sitemap URL is down here. It's not like WordPress sitemaps. This is a high-level sitemap. So I submit the sitemap, and then I submit the homepage URL. and then the what would be considered the primary service area page or location page, which in this case was Charlottesville. So the only three things that I do. Add the, well, it's four things. Add the subdomain as a URL prefix, add the sitemap, homepage, inspect URL, request indexing, the top level service area page or the primary service area page. And then last thing I do is I will also go in and do the page speed insights, because that forces the Googlebots to go crawl the site too, by the way. So I will go into check the page speed in Search Console. You just click page speed insights, check mobile speed or whatever, and then that goes and it forces the Googlebots to crawl the site. And that's it. Those are the only things that I do, and the sites are indexed within 24 to 48 hours. Now, 6 or 8 months ago, they were taking longer to index, but right now they're indexing very, very fast. Okay, just to be clear. All right, hopefully that answers that question. Okay. Any comments that I need to address? Otherwise, I'll just get into the land flipping question.
Sorry, I was just checking them out.
David says, so people know how to add 5 plus 2 and get the answers, but they couldn't figure out how to get 2 plus 5 answers. I'm not sure I understand that. It says, I've seen the same kind of neglect from many SEO services. It's unbelievable. It's really just shocking to me how these companies stay in business. Craig, what's up, Craig? David says that's why I do brand stacks. Yeah, I totally agree. It was funny. I was talking to it was one of our new mastermind members, a young fellow. He's only 21 years old. He's in the UK. And I had an onboarding call with him today. One of our new members. And he was asking, he was like, I've been, he said he just started in SEO about 2 years ago in or 2021 maybe, so maybe 3 years ago. And so he's trying to he works for a company doing SEO services, but he's also trying to start his own kind of side hustle doing SEO and lead gen, and he wants to focus on local because his other SEO gig isn't really local. And anyway, long story short, he was asking me, he's like, I've been learning a lot since January of this year. He said he's been spending a lot of time just studying and learning about SEO, and that's why he joined our mastermind. And he asked me, he said, I've heard varying conflicting opinions about entity stacks. That's what he called it, but Google stacks, entity stacks, brand stacks, whatever you want to call them, all mean basically the same thing. And he's like, and I've heard some people say they're useless and they don't work. And I said, well, let me stop you right there. Let me explain something, because you're fairly new in this industry. There's a lot of people in our industry that are full of shit. And I said that to him. I just said, there's a lot of people in our industry that don't know a goddamn thing. They don't do any testing. What they do is they hear something in some SEO group or they read something on some stupid SEO blog, and then they repeat it as gospel. They go around and spew that shit around the web to anybody that'll listen to them as if they know, when they haven't actually tested anything. There's a lot of that in our industry. And so I told him, I was like, I do a lot of testing, and I can tell you for sure entity stacks work, brand stacks work, Google stacks work when they're done properly. So I said, the people that say they don't work, they either don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they're doing it improperly. That's it, because it absolutely works. When done properly, it absolutely works. And David, I know you know that, but it's interesting to hear that, because some people they don't work. Okay. Well, I love it when people say they don't work, because that means they're not doing them, right? And that gives us the edge. David says, Brad, let me ask you this. Brand entity versus name brand entity. A equals biz, B equals your name. For example, if you make a Facebook page, would you build a page for your brand company, or for yourself? Well, I mean, it depends on the business. If a personal brand is part of the business, then I would do both. Does that make sense? Adam Netzer, one of our members of the mastermind, who's also one of my best clients for semantic links. He on Build with Bradley or Mastermind, it was Mastermind webinar last Thursday. He asked what my long-term goals were with Semantic Mastery, and so I was trying to explain that as best I could. And one of the things I said was he had asked, well, do you plan on stepping away from Semantic Mastery? And I said, well, I don't know how I could, not just because I am the face of. I mean, look, I've got my partners. There's no question. Semantic Mastery wouldn't be Semantic Mastery without my partners, but it also wouldn't be Semantic Mastery without me. So, because I'm the face of that, you know what I mean? I'm the one that does the training and everything else. So Semantic Mastery is much, my personal brand is very much part of Semantic Mastery. So I don't know how I could separate myself from that and Semantic Mastery still be successful, at least not now. Maybe planning and taking steps to do that over time, it could be done. But so to answer your question, if it is a brand, a company or business brand that relies in part on a personal brand, then I would have both. But if it's like a local business, then, well, don't get me wrong, personal branding can help improve a business brand, right? Because when you don't do business with the business, you do business with people that work at a business. So you're still doing business with people. Business is a people activity, right? It's a people-based thing, which is why, like I said, I used to hate sales. I used to think that I could do everything behind a computer, and I did. I sold plenty of SEO services via email, etc., to local businesses and all that. But eventually, when I finally got over my fear of sales and realized that business is a people thing, right? Like you can generate a lot more business if you can open up to people and communicate well with people. And so I made it a point to try to overcome the fear of sales and just put myself out there more, have more conversations. And guess what happened? Business started to grow, right? So I would say, you can still influence a corporate brand through a personal brand. So it does make sense to do both, if that makes sense. But for, a lot of my tree contractors, I'm not going to tell them to go create a personal brand. No, because they don't give a damn really anyways. All they want is work, right? So we focus on branding their company and not them, if that's clear. I don't know if that answered your question, David. Hopefully I gave you a decent answer. The syndication response, pay attention to YouTube. Google is going to show you also what it's rewarding and why. I 100% agree. All right, guys, that's it. Let me answer the question on land flipping. If anybody wants to go, feel free to go, because because I'm going to be answering this question for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So Roy's asked many really good questions about land flipping, and he emailed me a week or two ago for some document resources for finishing and closing a deal. So an affidavit and memorandum, assignment of real estate purchase and sale agreement, and a affidavit, I think, and also a cover letter for an affidavit. So all of those things were for securing property and securing your interest in a property. So anyway, I sent him all those documents, and this is his follow-up question. So I'm going to answer this, guys, and then we're done for the day. Thank you so much for sharing your templates for affidavit and memorandum concerning real estate with us. We looked at the documents and have a few questions. For first, our parcel ID, map tax ID, and APN, all referring to the same thing? Or does each of those terms mean something different? It varies, Roy. It varies depending on the location. It's usually by county that varies. So you, by the way, just contact the county and ask. That's it. Guys, don't be afraid to contact. That's public information, public record, right? So they have to answer those questions for you. So don't feel bad. Call the damn county that you're working in and ask them. Look at the tax records, because the tax records will often have sometimes more than one property IDs, and sometimes they will be named different things. And that's how, and so those, most of the time, they're going to be the parcel ID, tax map ID, and APN, which is assessor's parcel number, all mean the same thing most of the time. But in some counties, it doesn't. Sometimes they have different numbers for different things. And you have to make sure that you're using the appropriate numbers in the proper places, or else it causes confusion for everybody. So just call the county. Whenever you land a property, call the county and ask them, right? Hey, look, this is what it says in the tax map records. What is this parcel ID? Is that the same as the APN or the map? And in some cases, you don't need that. You just got to find out what the proper location property IDs are or whatever. And just use whatever is relevant in that location. Does that make sense? So you don't need all of them. In some cases you do, but in many cases you don't. So just find out from the county what the proper property IDs are to be used in the closing documents, right? The deeds, etc. Okay. Second, do we need to have the affidavit and memorandum concerning real estate document notarized before getting it recorded? Yes, you have to have it notarized. That's why there's a notary section on it, Roy. But yes, you have to get it notarized. So UPS store, a bank, if you usually at your bank, you can get it notarized for free. or sometimes you have to pay $5 or something, but, or you go to UPS store and get it notarized. Public libraries often, you can get it notarized, or you can call a mobile notary, except you're gonna pay for that. But I've done that many times too. Call a mobile notary, have them come to you. So yeah, you have to have it notarized. And then when you send, if you're gonna go hand deliver and you have the affidavit recorded at the courthouse, then you just go do it. But that's going to use time. And by the way, I would recommend that you do that a few times for a few deals. Is go to the courthouse if it's within, you know, reasonable driving distance, and so that you go through the process and learn, you know, how to talk to people at the courthouse, how to get a document recorded, and all that stuff. It's just good experience. But once you've done that a couple of times, then mail in that shit because it'll save you a ton of time. All you do is a certified check for the recording fee, which is like $10 to $20 usually. And you send the affidavit sometimes with a cover sheet because some counties are going to require that. Again, call the county and find out what they require. If they do require it, you can usually go on the county website from your own computer and print off a cover sheet. And then you're going to put it in a or an envelope with a self-addressed return envelope that has a stamp on it already, that you've already addressed for the return. And then you just put a note in there that most of the time they understand when there's a self-addressed envelope in the envelope that they receive it with. That means once they record it, they're going to mail it back to you. That makes sense. And that's what I mean, again, I recommend you do that a few times manually, like go to the courthouse and do it if you can, if it's within reasonable driving distance, just to become familiar with the process. Then after that, you can start sending them in by mail and it'll save you a load of time. Okay. Great questions, guys. Appreciate all you guys. We will see you all next week.